Hey, it's Coach Andrew here, and in today's video, we're going to be covering something extremely important when it comes to you recovering from insomnia, and it's called hyperarousal. And hyperarousal is the #1 cause of insomnia. And if you don't believe me, watch this video, and I think you'll change your mind. Let's jump in. The presentation is called Hyperarousal, Understanding and Reversing this Hidden Cause of Insomnia. First, what is hyperarousal? Hyperarousal is a fight or flight state triggered by fear, anxiety, worry, and overly focusing on our sleep. It's controlled by the amygdala, which is your brain's alarm system, and it's designed to keep us safe from danger. So this is an ancient mechanism in our brain that was very useful, in ancient times when there was like tigers and crazy stuff like threatening our lives at all times. And so an easy way to really understand how this works is that, let's say you go to lay down at night, right? And you're trying to go to sleep, but your brain is perceiving that there's a tiger out outside of your bedroom. It's not going to let you go to sleep because it's trying to keep you alive, right? And now we don't have tigers in the modern day, but it's been replaced with other things like bills, the news, our family life. All the stressors of the modern world are, to the brain, which doesn't know the difference of something real or imagined, to the brain, it's the same as the tiger being outside the bedroom. And so when this mechanism is triggered, it makes it basically impossible to sleep. And why does this happen? It's because when the amygdala is triggered, your body responds with increased alertness, body tension, and a spike in stress hormones. And the reason why it does that is because these are all designed to help you either run away or fight whatever's the danger. And this mechanism, like I said, was designed to help us survive. And obviously it's worked all the way up until this point. So it's never going to go away. The key is you have to understand it. Now, what does hyperarousal do to our sleep? So when our amygdala senses danger, it makes sure that we stay awake so that nothing can sneak up and kill us. And this keeps you alert even when you're physically tired. And what actually happens is when you don't understand that this is what's happening, you go to lay down and now you're wide awake and you don't know why. And then, so that triggers the amygdala in itself. And then you start to get scared that something's wrong because you don't know what's going on. And then that makes it worse. And then this happens night after night after night. And it's just a cycle that gets locked into place. And until you understand what's going on, it just basically gets worse and worse and worse. Or at the very least, just keeps you stuck where you're just not getting the sleep that you want. So that's essentially what's happening when this hyperarousal is triggered. The brain's fight or flight response is activated, and it's keeping us awake because it's afraid that there's some type of a danger out there, but there's actually no danger. And some common causes of hyperarousal is, like I said, overthinking about sleep. So if you're laying in bed and you're wondering am I going to be able to sleep tonight? It's been 3 weeks. It hasn't happened. All these different thoughts that can come up about sleep, that will actually cause the hyperarousal to go up. Okay. So another one is Googling sleep solutions. Okay. So this just causes the problem to get way worse because when you Google for solutions and then you see all the scary stuff that is on there and it tells you all these horrible side effects that are going to happen if you don't sleep and everything. And it just makes the problem way worse. Okay. Watching the clock at night, which we covered in lesson 1, then you start to wonder oh crap, I only have 3 hours left. I barely even slept 1 hour. And then you start doing all these numbers in your head and that activates the stress response. Trying to make yourself sleep, which is impossible because sleep is something that happens to us. We fall asleep. We can't jump asleep. Right. So If you try to make it happen, now you're focusing on sleep again, and it just causes the effect to get worse. Getting angry at ourselves for being awake. This is a huge one for a lot of men. And it's natural, like for men, I think specifically, like anger kind of comes to us like pretty naturally. And with what I've seen a lot was with extended cases of insomnia, the person is typically pretty hard on themselves because they kind of blame themselves, because especially for business owners, like we're all about getting stuff done and figuring out solutions. And with sleep, it's like the more solutions you try to figure out and the harder you try, the less you sleep. So it does make sense why people get angry at themselves, but that anger just creates those stress hormones and makes the problem worse. Sleep efforts, which is essentially anything that you try to do to make yourself sleep. So like obsessing about the temperature in the room, worrying about all the light, like sleep masks and earplugs and all these things, like they have their place, but when you do them just as like to try and make yourself sleep, not for like the purpose that they're actually for, then it causes hyperarousal. Then fear of fatigue tomorrow is a big one, because you're lying in bed wondering, like, am I going to be exhausted tomorrow? Like, this is going to be terrible, and then you start to get afraid. Another cause of the hyperarousal. Worrying about things we can't control. This is another big one, because anything that's outside of your control, there's nothing you can do about it. So worrying about it is like a never-ending cycle that you can't escape out of, because there's just no solution. And then finally, fear of fear itself, which happens when you get afraid because you had a bad night, and then you start to think into the future and get afraid that like the next night it's going to happen again. So now you're afraid of the upcoming fear, and then that just perpetuates itself. So it's a fear of fear itself that often happens, and it's not until you break that cycle that the freaking hyperarousal goes down and you can feel normal again. So those are basically like the majority of the most common causes of this, and knowing all this is like the key to changing your sleep, because now you have like a framework to see your problem through, and you know what to avoid and what you should do. Now, how do we manage hyperarousal? So you can't fight hyperarousal. You can only calm it down. And the goal is to show your brain that you're completely safe and there's no danger. And so the way to do that is through enjoyable, low-pressure activities that help shift your focus and lets your system get back into the rest mode. So I suggest things like just watching TV or watching a movie. You can do whatever on your phone, listen to your favorite music, or if you like to read, you can read books, magazines, whatever it is. But the key is that it's something you enjoy. Because I've had a lot of people I've talked to that try and do this technique, but then they're like watching a movie that they don't like, because they think if they watched a movie they did like, it would be too stimulating. But what in the next slide I'm going to show why it has to be something you enjoy for the effect to work. And the reason why is because enjoyment releases dopamine and serotonin, which are the feel-good brain chemicals that actually counteract the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And so this calms the amygdala, allows you to relax, and with consistent practice, you teach your brain that being awake is safe, which opens the door to consistent sleep. So it's very key that whatever activity you choose is something that you're actually enjoying doing, so that you get the chemical reaction that you're looking for that will counteract, the stress hormones and balance you out. And so that's why enjoyment is key. And now here's a bonus tip that basically can transcend everything. So if you adopt a mindset that you trust that everything happens for a reason, this can be very helpful, because when you do wake up or you have trouble falling asleep and you think about, okay, well, this is happening for a reason, what that will do is it will activate your brain to search for that reason. And then that will allow you to recall the lessons that you've learned in this program. And then your brain will say, oh, yeah, this is happening because I haven't been awake long enough yet, or I'm just too stressed out, or I'm trying too hard to make myself sleep, right? So by always asking and believing that everything is happening for a reason, you can ask your brain, what is the reason why this is happening? And then because you have this training now in your back pocket, the answers will present themselves. And so this is just a powerful lens. And you can use this for anything in life, and it will recall, things that you've learned in the past. So that's my bonus tip. And then just to recap everything, hyperarousal is a stress-driven alertness that blocks sleep. It's triggered by fear-based thoughts and an overactive amygdala. You can't force sleep, but you can create safety. And enjoyable activities and distractions calm the brain and allow your natural sleep drive to take over. And that's hyperarousal. If today's video resonated with you and you feel that little spark inside that's saying, maybe, just maybe, I could finally leave my insomnia behind for good, I invite you to click the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. On this call, we'll go over where you are now, what you're struggling with, and ultimately create you a roadmap so that you can get where it is that you want to go. You don't have to figure this all out on your own. So if that's you, click the link in the description and book a call with me. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.